Hello, and thank you for joining me. I want to speak a little bit about a story that's circulating on the website Shanghaiist, as per their Facebook page. Basically, if you're not familiar with Shanghaiist, this is a site, I believe it's run by Westerners, that's my suspicion, but I'm not entirely sure. It's sort of a snapshot of all sorts of stories going around in China. Most of the stories are not big geopolitical events, but everyday situations that are intriguing for one reason or another, and usually debate worthy for one reason or another. Anyway, in their latest bulletin story, they have reported on a clash between a teacher and a student. And the headline is as follows: Teacher and student slap each other in the face in class. Netizens say girl got what she deserved. A video was gone viral in China showing a teacher and student appear to fight, which would make Confucius roll over in his grave. And basically, in this exchange, I'm not sure if it specifies a precise location. It's certainly China, but I'm not sure if it specifies exactly where this is. No, I'm just looking further down the report. So basically, in the exchange, the teacher's obviously remonstrating with this girl student. They look to be middle school level. The girl's probably, I'd guess, 14, 15, maybe a little younger, maybe 13. Um, and it starts off with the teacher telling off the student. She's sort of wagging her finger at her, telling her off. The student is kind of ignoring this and continues to basically show disrespect. And as I understand from the translations, my Chinese still isn't at a level to understand exactly, but as I understand from the translations, the student continues to basically verbally provoke the teacher, and at one point she even gets up and gestures to her face, almost like saying, "I dare you to do it! I dare you to do it!" Um, and after a bit more verbal back and forth, the teacher does indeed slap her. Then the girl slaps the teacher back. This is a female teacher, and they end up in a physical fight to the point where other students have to actually break them up. So this is my take on it. It's provoked a lot of different opinions. I'd say 70% of the comments, both Western and Chinese, are supporting the teacher. And this is an interesting thing because, firstly, I'm interested in it because I myself come from a teaching background. And I worked in China for some time now. What people need to understand is that, firstly, my own position in this, I don't condone the teacher slapping the student. I think it's inappropriate and it shouldn't be the approach that you take, no matter how much a student provokes you. For one thing, for practical reasons, you're going to end up in some sort of lawsuit. I wouldn't be surprised if this girl's parents try to sue the school or the teacher. Um, but the other thing that people need to understand is that teachers are human beings. They have a breaking point, and that's something that people cannot overlook. Um, Speaking personally, I had no major discipline issues in my class, but there was one class that was difficult, and they did test my patience a few times. Now, what I found was a balanced approach works insofar as if you are the sort of teacher to have a very approachable rapport with your students, that is, if you rarely raise your voice, if you do actually raise your voice when you have to, they tend to take that more seriously than if you raise your voice all the time because they notice that it's different. That the situation has got to a point where you're unhappy. That's my experience. Of course, every class is different. Clearly, this student is a problem student, and I think it also contradicts a bit of a stereotype we have in the West. That we sort of have this stereotype that Chinese schools teachers are super strict and all the students are incredibly subservient and would never ever do anything wrong. That's actually not true. There is actually a serious behaviour problem that I would argue has been increasing in recent years. In another video, I saw male students physically attack their teacher. Now, this is obviously not something unique to China. It's something that can be found all over the world. The Daily Mirror reported today that the number of payouts to teachers in the UK has drastically increased because of the level of mental health problems that teachers are actually facing as a result of behaviour problems, and they feel powerless. In one case, a teacher had her hand put into a filing machine by an aggressive student. Another teacher suffered a sustained assault. Now, here's my take on it. I certainly, as a pretext, don't think teachers should hit students, and I personally would never do it because I wouldn't want the lawsuit that follows. However, I really, really take issue with the liberal extreme on this, and that is basically treating all students as this very kind of Nordic Western European concept. Oh, all students are individuals. We must work with them all. And the problem is with putting an equilibrium between teacher and student, you absolutely lose any authority, and a teacher has to have authority. This does not mean being super strict. It doesn't mean terrifying the students. You don't want a situation where the students are so scared of you that they're never going to communicate. But you do want a situation where the level of authority is such that they won't push the boundaries. And I think a big problem, seemingly in China as much as the West, is that teachers are afraid of standing up for themselves because inevitably there will be lawsuits. So I don't think teachers should strike students, but there shouldn't be a situation where students think they can get away with anything. And I do believe if students strike a teacher, then there should be no trying to understand them. There should be absolute discipline. That student should be suspended. The parents should be brought in, and it should absolutely be dealt with robustly. That is an unacceptable situation because it's not just about disrespect towards a teacher. A student who behaves like that is going to bully other students. I was debating with one of the other teachers on this forum, and he said, what does this teach the student? My logic would be, well, if you're the sort of teacher to always take that ultra-liberal approach, like, oh, let's just calmly talk it through, you're going to give the student the impression they can go into the adult world, treat other human beings like dirt, that they can disrespect older people, that they can disrespect anyone. That's not a good lesson. That's not productive. So I firmly believe that teachers have to be given the power. They need to be empowered to have authority in a class. That doesn't necessarily mean striking students, but it should be a situation of not being afraid to stand up to students. Certainly in the UK, that has for too long been the case, whereby teachers don't stand up for themselves because they're frightened of lawsuits happening. They're frightened of, more often than not, students with a behaviour problem have parents with an attitude problem. This isn't totally unrelated, because if you have a parent who allows their son or daughter to basically do anything they want, where there's absolutely no instillment of discipline whatsoever, you're going to get this sort of aggressive behaviour. Of course, there's the other extreme. If you get an outright abusive parent who, beats up their son or daughter when they're drunk, then the chances are that's also going to bring out aggression in the student. So adults have to be responsible, but in my opinion, they need to be empowered to be responsible. So I'm a firm believer in giving teachers empowerment to be able to act in these situations. So this teacher, she shouldn't have struck the student, but I don't think this is a case of a teacher abusing her power. I think this is more a case of a teacher who has been pushed too far. That's how I read into it. Anyway, I'll put a link in this video, probably in the information section below. Do let me know your thoughts. If you are Chinese, if you're a teacher, if you're whatever your background is, I'd like to hear your perspective on this. And just to summarize, as a teacher myself, I wouldn't strike a student, but there are times you have to assert authority. If I have two male students fighting, I have to physically break them up. It's not going to be a case of, oh, I'll lay back. If I see a student being bullied, I'm going to be hard line on the bullies. No question about it. A teacher has to have authority without going too far. Let me know your thoughts, and if you're interested in what I have to say, please do subscribe in the corner here, and feel free to check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.